Okay, here we go. All right, we are back. I'm gonna just adjust this mic real quick, so prepare your ears. I gotta prepare my ears. Okay, we are on page 212 of, it's warming up a little bit, of Peculiar Indifference. This is the last chapter of the book. It's entitled Remedies. It's going over possible solutions to these root cause issues. I feel like I'm gonna reserve saying this. I'm gonna reserve that statement. Let's go into this next paragraph. One strategy proposed by Yale law professor James Foreman Jr. and legal reform advocate Sarah Lusbader is to develop teams within courts to review existing sentences for serious offenders. Oh, damn. That's what I was supposed to. Oh, damn. All right, I'll do it later. My fault, y'all. I spaced. Okay. One strategy proposed by Yale law professor James Foreman Jr. and legal reform advocate Sarah Lusbader is to develop teams within the courts to review existing sentences for serious offenders, particularly older prisoners who have already served many years and are well past the age at which most people commit violent crimes, and to release those who pose no real threat to the community. We can couple that with work at the, quote, front end, end quote, of the criminal justice system, investing more resources into proven programs that provide youths who have committed violent offenses with intensive help to deal with the problems that got them into trouble. The evidence suggests that well-designed and well-implemented programs of this kind can help to put many youth on a better track and keep them out of prison. But the effects will only last if the track actually leads somewhere. Here again, a national commitment to full employment, backed by fully funded public investment in social programs, can make a crucial difference and, in the process, do much to transform our criminal justice system. If we provide resources to hire and train more people who are capable of giving guidance to young offenders, we kill two birds with one stone. We provide youth with timely help toward a better future, and we see to it that there is a better future to help them into. It might be objected that a radical reduction in incarceration is a utopian idea, but for decades, America had far lower incarceration rates than we do now, while suffering less violence. And it's important to remember that most of the rest of the advanced industry, it might be object. Damn. Hello, how you doing? How you doing? Did I? I hope that's good. I hope that's good. Oh, really? Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Okay, yep. 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 Moving on to the now, yeah. Did you ever get a chance to any copies? I feel you. I gotta ask. I gotta ask. You good? Okay. Okay. Let me know if you need some help. We can always get somebody to go with you to help you out to do it too. Okay. Why do the innocent plead guilty? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just to get out. Yeah. That's okay. That's a book. Okay. Who wrote that? Okay. I'm gonna look that up. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. All right. Have a good night. See you. Okay. I'm gonna see you. Oh, that's what's up. She said she was up all night listening. Man, that's what's up. That's what's up, y'all. All right, man. We really are happy that to hear people up listening, to hear that people staying up all night listening, to hear that people listening to these books being read. We 10 days in. We was actually just having a conversation. About if we felt like the things we was doing was working, and if not if the things we was doing was working, but just gauging. You got to always gauge your progress, gauge your success meter, gauge how far you came, gauge how far you need to go. And so we was just gauging. And so to get the affirmation with that woman, with that black queen coming by and telling us that she had been up listening to us all night, man. That just made my morning, my afternoon. And these are serious matters, man. These books are important. I don't like to use the word curriculum. We're going to have to find something different than curriculum, but this is what we are reading. We are reading A Peculiar Indifference, The Neglected Toll of Violence on Black America by Elliott, Currie. All right, A Peculiar Indifference. We are on page 213. The evidence suggests the well-designed and well-implemented programs of this kind can help to put many youth on a better track and keep them out of prison. But the effects will only last if the track actually leads somewhere. Here again, a national commitment to full employment backed by fully funded public investment in social programs can make a crucial difference and in the process do much to transform our criminal justice system. If we provide resources to hire and train more people who are capable of giving guidance to young offenders, we kill two birds with one stone. We provide youth with timely help toward a better future, and we see to it that there is a better future to help them into. It might be objected that a radical reduction in incarceration is a utopian idea. But for decades, America had far lower incarceration rates than we do now, while suffering less violence. And it's important to remember that most of the rest of the advanced industrial world manages violence much better than we do, while maintaining rates of imprisonment that run anywhere from 1/3 to 1/16 of ours. That difference is partly a result of our unusually high rate of serious crime, especially violent crime. But it also reflects long-standing differences in social values. Many of our counterparts in the advanced industrial world have adopted attitudes toward imprisonment that mesh with their more generous and inclusive social policies in general, and thus, to a greater extent than the United States, avoid the destructive mistake of substituting punishment for constructive strategies of social inclusion and support. Man, I'm going to read that again. We got time. Many of our counterparts in the advanced industrial world have adopted attitudes toward imprisonment that mesh with their more generous and inclusive social policies in general, and thus, to a greater extent than the United States, avoid the destructive mistake of substituting punishment for constructive strategies of social inclusion and support. So that just sort of sums up a lot of that. I mean, that sums up almost everything that we've written on everything that we've read on some level these last 10 days. Excuse me. Our commitment to the prison as a first-line solution to violence, in short, reflects the same neglectful and exclusive mentality that has encouraged our high rates of violence in the first place. There is considerable and welcome debate about what role, if any, prison should play in a civilized society. But there is a growing recognition that maintaining our current levels of imprisonment is socially and economically self-defeating and morally unsustainable. Bringing them down to a level that is compatible with a democratic and humane society cannot be achieved overnight, but it should be an aspiration, part of a larger vision of the kind of inclusive and supportive society we would like to become. Somebody just came by and said that they was up listening to us all night. Yes, he was up listening all night. So I gotta go back home and go to sleep now. Y'all have me up listening to you all night. The first I was listening to. She was like, I was listening. I woke up this morning and listened to. She said just now I was listening to you, but late last night I was listening to the other boy reading. He was reading that the other book. You know, it was I don't know. It was just funny that we were just talking about that and then somebody pull up. We might start, for example, by committing to the goal of reducing our national incarceration rate to its level in the late 1960s before the prison boom began in earnest. Or we might aim to reduce our incarceration rate to the average among other advanced industrial societies, which would give us a rate something like 1/6 of our current one. But, again, we can't really envision serious reductions in incarceration as a credible policy option without a simultaneous commitment to the construction of alternative lives and strengthened communities. So that really got into the new Jim Crow, what new Jim Crow touched on. It gets into some of the things that Locking Up Our Own touched on. They even bring up James Foreman Jr. And it also gets into things that Until We Reckon touched on. And so here we are again with each book that we're reading, mentioning and having reference to previous books that we read, with each book that we're reading, giving credence to the philosophies of other books, giving credence to the statistics given in other books, giving credence to the theories that have been formulated in other books. And so it just lets us know that we are on the right path. And it lets us know when these ideas support each other, when these different books, these different authors, these different experience that these people have, when they all are supporting of each other, it lets you know that these are commonalities. This is something that is very relevant, and these things are happening to this day. We have, the one of the top 5 structures in the city is probably the jail, as far as investment and the just overall imagery of it, the visual of it. The hotel and the jail, the hotel and the federal jail or whatever, the hotel and the county, the Justice Center. Justice Center look better than some of the schools. What do that say when you're doing the Justice Center? That the place where you housing people in jail and doing court, and they look better than the schools. I guess they updated some of the schools now though. Huh? Damn. Okay. Part 5. Part 5. It is hard to overstate the role of guns in facilitating violent death and injury in Black America. 83% of Black Americans who died by violence in 2018 died by gunshot. The figure climbs to 86% for Black men specifically, and to an astonishing 94% for Black men aged 15 to 29. And these proportions have been increasing in recent years. Guns did not start the crisis of endemic violence, but beyond a certain point, the saturation of communities by firearms becomes an independent force that intensifies and lethalizes it. The glut of guns, as the research makes clear, fuels a deadly self-perpetuating dynamic. An environment where many people carry guns and are known to be willing to use them will breed defensive gun carrying in response. In the worst case, retaliation in kind against gun assault becomes regarded as mandatory in order to maintain the respect that could forestall repeat victimization later on. In the Flint Youth Violence Study, nearly a quarter of youth who presented to the emergency room for any kind of assault reported possessing a firearm in the past 6 months. And this group was much more likely than others assaulted youth to endorse And this group was much more likely than other assaulted youth to, quote, endorse aggressive attitudes that increase their risk for retaliatory violence, end quote. Substantially changing the dynamic and more generally reducing the role of guns in these communities through gun regulation alone, especially through the generally mild measures that are most often proposed by gun control advocates in the United States, is not as easy as it might seem. Decades of stunningly lax gun policies have allowed vulnerable communities to be flooded with guns for so long that even if we managed to stop the flow of new guns tomorrow, we would still be left with a formidable and entrenched arsenal. And some common proposals, though certainly reasonable, are too narrow to have more than a limited impact on quote-unquote everyday violence. Restricting the sale of semi-automatic assault rifles, for example, or banning bump stocks and other particularly egregious enhancements of the destructive capacity of firearms would surely be a good thing, but the vast majority of violent gun deaths and injuries among Black Americans, as among all Americans, are inflicted by handguns. At least 2 gun control measures, however, are especially urgent. One is closing the quote-unquote loophole that in many states allows private gun sales to proceed without a background check. The other is restricting the number of guns that can be bought at one time. Both of these would directly address some of the key sources of the relentless flow of guns into the most affected communities. At this writing, only about 20 states and the District of Columbia have laws on the books that require background checks for all gun sales. Wow. This means that in most states of the Union, anyone, no matter what their background or what criminal activities they are engaged in, can buy a firearm at a gun show, in a personal sale between private parties, or on the internet. An estimated 22% of gun buyers across the United States now buy their weapons without undergoing a background check, and the figure rises to 50% for those who purchase their guns in private sales. Unsurprisingly, Research shows that this is how a very substantial proportion of guns used in crimes find their way to the street. Closing this quote-unquote loophole, less a loophole than a wide-open gate, is absolutely essential. It makes a mockery of our already limited efforts to regulate commercial gun sales in the United States. Damn, that was crazy. I did not know that about the gun laws. As he's writing this, only 20 states in the District of Columbia have laws on the books that require background checks for all gun sales. Wow. 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 I wonder what states those are. I'm curious. I wonder what states those are. I also had another thought as I was doing this. I really do wonder what those states are. I wish I had time to look up those states, but I want to keep on going through here, and I'm gonna have to use the bathroom here in a little bit. Hope that ain't too much information. Let's see. Okay. Just gotta go share this. Yes, I wonder what states those are. Just gotta go share this. Okay. All right. Let's hop back into this. I need it. Shoot. Okay. Wait. Hold on, y'all. Wait a minute, y'all. Damn. Woo. Okay. Okay, y'all. Hold on 1 second. What y'all know about the Saying for the Sun? Y'all know nothing about Saying for the Sun? I think that's how that song go. I don't know nothing about Saying for the Sun. Moving on now to east side, to disappointment and sky. Oh damn, my fault, y'all. I'm gonna try to warm myself up. Man, warm up. Oh, yeah. Man, I actually need to shoot a few messages out too, but I'm gonna do that at a different time. We gonna get this book wrapped up. Okay. Similarly, only a handful of states now have any regulations whatever on bulk gun purchases, and in most of them, such as California, the limit still allows the purchase of 1 gun a month. Any measure with the potential to reduce the flow of guns into vulnerable communities even slightly is surely better than nothing. But a 1 gun a month law still allows someone bent on doing violence to arm a dozen of their friends every year. A more substantial step has been taken by New York City, which now allows one gun purchase every 90 days. That is still a lot of guns. But if this approach were implemented nationally, it could have a real impact on what is now a virtually unfettered flow of guns into the communities most vulnerable to firearm violence. And we could certainly make the limit even stricter. Turning these and other relatively modest local measures into national policy is absolutely essential. Currently, even the best efforts of individual states and cities are routinely undercut by the near total absence of intelligent firearm policies in other places that may be, at most, only a few hours away by freeway. Research shows that clearly guns used in crimes in states with relatively strong gun restrictions are more or less like, damn. Research shows clearly that guns used in crimes in states with relatively strong gun restrictions are more likely to have come from outside the state than the guns used in crimes in more lax states. 4 states, Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, supply nearly half of the guns recovered in crimes in New York City, which, like many other major American cities, has relatively stringent gun regulations. 60% of guns used in Chicago crimes 60% of the guns used in Chicago's crimes come from out of state, with more than 1/4 from Indiana and Mississippi alone. Wow. Mississippi, indeed, has the dubious distinction of being proportionately the foremost exporter of guns used in crimes committed in any other state. There is simply no way to keep Mississippi guns out of Chicago in the absence of a federal policy that makes guns hard to buy in Mississippi. And the same holds for the problem of private gun sales. California's law mandating background checks for all private sales won't stop a handgun bought at an Arizona gun show from quickly winding up on the streets of East Oakland. Taking these very basic steps should be seen as no more than the beginning. They would still not bring us close to the more mindful gun policies of most every other advanced nation, and they would not, by themselves, eliminate racial disparities and violent death and injury. But they are critical for moves that could help tamp down the tragic cycle of defensive weapon carrying and retaliatory violence that plays a role in creating them. Okay, yo, Rick, what's up? Man, this is that's crazy. The gun, I did not, man. That makes me think about Parkland. That it's a book, the book called Parkland, about the Parkland shooting. And just thinking about some of these gun laws, man. Thinking about some of these gun laws, and just thinking about how deeply embedded in this society, guns are, and this violence is. This is really a take on the society. Sometimes when you hear these laws, sometimes you got to hear them to put it in perspective. To think about Mississippi, the most racist state. To think that Mississippi, the most racist state, one of the most racist states in this country, that most of the guns used in Chicago crimes come from Mississippi. That's some type of ironic, sick plot twist. It's very interesting. Only 20 states require a background check for all firearm purchases. Man, I'm not out here trying to tell people that they shouldn't have the right to bear arms. I'm definitely not doing that, but it should be background checks. Everybody need to be getting background checks, man. It's too many mass shootings. Too many of us are in places where mass shootings can take place. And mass shootings, domestic terrorism, usually, I don't want to say usually, that's wrong, but the origins of domestic terrorism trace back to black people being murdered in the streets by people out here shooting guns, murder them in the streets, running through towns. Man, America and its guns. But then think about how the condemnation of the idea they want to get the guns off the streets in the ghettos, or in the quote unquote ghettos, or in the places where they feel like crime is happening heavily, or but at the same time they telling, look how lax the gun laws is. They allow, when people talk, that's why when I tell people, like, boy, they let guns come into these cities, they know what these lax gun laws, the implications that they have, they don't care. They don't care. Okay, y'all, my fault. I'm trying to get something right. Give me a second, I gotta get something right, y'all. Yeah. Man, this stuff is all so crazy. It is. It's hold on one second, y'all. Hold on, y'all. My fault. Just trying to. My fault, y'all. 1 second. Okay. Okay. Okay, we on part 6. Again, we are reading A Peculiar Indifference. Reducing counterproductive incarceration and the flow of guns can be seen as methods of harm reduction, strategies that will work alongside the kinds of social investment that violence-torn communities most need. Another kind of harm reduction involves efforts to directly counter the destructive attitudes that are often fostered by structural disadvantage in the experience of entrenched violence itself. We cannot sugarcoat the long-term psychological impact of generations of racial subordination, constricted opportunities, and entrenched violence. As we've seen, that experience can lead, at the extreme, to markedly heedless, opportunistic, and individualistic perspectives on the world. And for many young people now trapped in an environment of hopelessness and pervasive danger, it is difficult to imagine a different way of life. Interviewing violent youth confined in New York City's Rikers Island jail, for example, researchers found that most had a very sophisticated understanding of the roots and consequences of the violence that enveloped their lives. They also understood that by continuing to engage in it, they were, quote unquote, contributing to an endless cycle that would result in further imprisonment, lack of opportunity, community disintegration, quote, end quote. But despite that awareness, they could, quote, not envision another way of surviving, end quote. Man, that's crazy. I think that we really, I do, and a lot of times, sometimes you have to, man, I'm trying to think, was it Dr. King who said this? Maybe it wasn't Dr. King. I don't know who it was who said this, but they said sometimes you have to put yourself in I think it was Brian Stevenson. Brian Stevenson, the writer of Just Mercy. It's a film called Just Mercy that was based on his life, starring Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. He's a brilliant man. He's full of information and wisdom, understanding on some of these things, and knowledge on some of these things. He's a lawyer. Helped people get off of. He worked with people on death row. But anyways, one of the things he says is that sometimes we have to put ourselves in a position to bear witness. Sometimes, and Dr. King talked about that, bearing witness. James Baldwin talked about that, bearing witness. Cornel West talks about that, bearing witness. What that means, and of course, everything means something different to everybody. But to me, when I hear it, and some of the translations I've gotten from them when they speak about it, is the idea of that these things are happening in our world, whether we look at them or not. They're going to happen. And maybe sometimes we cannot intervene in these things happening. Maybe we cannot stop these things from happening. But sometimes, in order to get to the point of somebody else being able to stop them from happening, in order to get to the point from as a society, maybe we can start stopping them from happening. And someone has to see it happen and go back and tell people that it's happening. Somebody has to know that it's happening and open up their mouth and tell people that it's happening. And that's what it means, in my opinion, to bear witness. And that's why I think it's important, where is this mention at? And so again, I get lost my thoughts. But I said that to say that I have borne witness, I have bared witness to people who feel that sense of hopelessness, who feel like the only way that they can survive is through violence and through perpetuating violence, who feel that that they don't know how to get through days and weeks and months without violence finding a way to infiltrate their lives. What I find is interesting is that in America, a majority of people in America are like that. Think about this. The young man on the west side of Rockford who goes through every day and he deals with violence and on a maybe it's shootings in the city. What up, man? Maybe it's shootings in the area of the city that he's from. He deals with that on a regular basis. Maybe it's violence in his home. He deals with on a regular basis. Maybe it's violence at school, fights or something like that. He deals with on a regular basis, right? And so part of his American experience, part of his societal American experience is a violent one. Violence is hinged in it. But then fast forward to that to somebody on the now fast forward that over to somebody on the opposite side of the city, opposite side of town, right? And maybe it's not shootings outside of their street every night, right? Shootings in their neighborhood every night, right? Maybe that's not happening. But they listen to hip hop music, they listen to rap music and listen to this music where violence is perpetuated in the music. And maybe it's not violence in their home and any type of domestic situation or any type of a violent situation going on inside the home, but maybe they play violent video games all the time at the house. Maybe they play in Grand Theft Auto when they play in Mortal Kombat, or watching violent movies, watching violent TV shows, right? And then let's even fast forward that out. Maybe they go on the weekends when it's a big MMA fight. They go to the bars and they watch MMA fights, and so that entertainment via violence. And so, man, is it gonna start raining again? If it doesn't start raining, I need to go back out to the front so people can see us. No, it's still raining. Oh yeah, I'm tripping. We need to just stay right where we at. And so I say that to say that shows you two different spectrums of American society, and both of them are hinged in violence. Both of them operate with violence happening. And so we have to start understanding that even though the violence that one set of people experience may manifest itself in a different way, and though the set of violence one people experience may be more direct, that there is a very indirect, another side of the society that experiences violence on a very indirect level, and so it's reinforced on multiple levels. And so we have to all right, page 219. As observers from John Dollard onward have recognized, violence directed inward into one's own community can be seen in part as a response to this absence of a sense of alternatives. But enlisting youth in the work of social reconstruction holds the promise of genuine personal transformation. Working with young people to build a sense of common purpose, solidarity, and common vision may go a long way toward reshaping what is now too often a predatory, defensive, and quote-unquote hard worldview, which sees others as targets and is quick to define them as implacable enemies rather than people much like themselves. We cannot realistically hope to transform these perspectives in the long run without altering the conditions that bring them about, especially the deep poverty, vanished opportunities, and absence of social support for the young. But we can accomplish a great deal by enlisting youth themselves in that process of change. And nothing is more likely to offer that kind of community engagement than guaranteeing the youth the opportunity to work in projects designated to create social and environmental reforms that directly affect their lives. And I think that is this is the first portion of this book that I'm reading, and I think for me the thing that I enjoy the most so far is he's giving you places. He's giving you examples of when people have implemented some of these ideas to try to get them to work. He's giving you statistics as to why the issue this root issue needs to be solved, and then he's tracing back how the solving of these root issues in total help to alleviate this violence, which will help to alleviate this society in the whole in the long run. Oh man, I was gonna try to finish the chapter before I use the bathroom, but oh no, I'm not. That's 10 more pages. I gotta use the bathroom. I don't wanna. Oh, I wanna end it though. I'm gonna play a speech. Let's find a. Let's see if this guy has a speech. Okay. Let's see if he got some speeches from this guy. All right, y'all. Hold on 1 second. Elliott Currie. Let's see. He a white man, y'all. I'm just gonna let y'all know that off back right now, so that way people not surprised. Okay, let's see. Mm-hmm. Dang. Oh man. I think he got wet. Maybe I'm not gonna play a speech. Man, I was supposed to download the video, so we ain't need the Wi-Fi for the speeches. All right, I'm gonna end it. I gotta go use the bathroom. We be back. We be bike.